Good evening. I would like to call to order the special meeting of the Common Council at 6:33 on February 11th, 2025. All please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Burnett. Mr. Goldstein. Mr. Lopez. Ms. Najilski Eichner.
Present.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Ayers.
Here.
Mr. Seed.
Here.
Mr. Wiggins. Ms. Young. Ms. Edie.
Here.
Ms. Winterstrand.
Here.
Ms. Dunn.
Here.
Mr. Sutton.
Present.
Mr. Frere.
Here.
Ms. Shanahan.
Here.
Mr. Goldstein. Mr. Lopez. Mr. Wiggins. Ms. Young. We have 11 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. So the purpose of this special meeting is the presentation of the 2025-2026 operating budget. And so I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Burnett, the chair of our Finance and Claims Committee, to give us an introduction and introduce our CFO, Jared Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, we'll hear the presentation of the mayor's recommended operating budget for 2025-2026, presented by the Finance Department, led by our CFO, Jared Smith. This will be an opportunity for the council to understand what our challenges are going into the upcoming budget cycle, as well as what the recommendation is, the best possible recommendation for the city, so that ultimately there is not a tremendous tax burden presented to our taxpayers. So with that, I'd like to present our CFO to take us through the presentation.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening, Common Council members. I'm just going to share my screen here. Right. There we go. As Greg said, I'm here to present the mayor's recommended fiscal year 25-26 budget. Before I do that, sorry, Tom, I think I have to do this again. I want to thank Tom Ellis, our budget and management director, and also his assistant, Agnes Kawai, for the massive amount of work that went into this. This was a challenging budget to develop, and I thank them greatly for their work. With that, so we have the schedule, which everybody I think generally is aware of. We have a couple of presentations this week. Obviously here tonight, we were in the BET last night. And then on Thursday, we'll be through the Finance and Claims Committee to the presentation to the public. And this schedule takes us out all the way to Cinco de Mayo, when the mill rate will be adopted. and my understanding is that on the February 25th is when the Common Council will vote in the cap. As I said at the outset, this was a challenging year. There were a number of things and a number of challenges that you are all aware of that we've talked about, seems like ad nauseum. We had the 2023 real estate revaluation. We are currently in the first year of the phase-in of that revaluation, and this budget is to adopt, in part would be the second year of the phase-in. Second, we have a request from the Board of Education, a budget request from the Board of Education in the amount of $22.6 million. That's the increase amount, which amounts to 9.7% increase in their budget. I will get into the next one in some detail later on in the presentation, but we did have some fairly significant state mandated motor vehicle tax reform that, as the name suggests, we were required to input this into the budget. There is a grant that the state gives for municipal revenue sharing. It doesn't happen every year. And basically it depends on how much sales tax the state brings in a given year. I'll do this by way of example. If we adopt this budget this year for next year, we would not know whether or not we got this grant until, say, August or September of this year. And so the only way we would get it is, again, if the sales tax revenue at the state level went up a certain amount, and that threshold is pretty high. So the point is, we're not budgeting this grant. It was about $1.7 million is what it has been. I'm not at all confident that we will see that again next year, and so that's been removed. So this is yet another hurdle for us to get over. There were a number of one-time revenues that are in the current year budget. A couple of different agreements with the Housing Authority, Spinnaker. We had a tax sale, as you all know, which was highly successful. We had budgeted $4.5 million in the current FY25 budget for that. We also have union agreements that have not been resolved yet. We do have money reserved in the budget for those, but we don't know where they're going to end up. We can say that throughout the state, these numbers and the settlements and agreements are tracked by CCM, and what we've seen to date has been in the range of 2.5% to 3% in other municipalities. Those are the level of increases, salary increases. I'm also making an effort to move some of the smaller recurring capital items out of the capital budget and into the operating budget. This is going to be done in 2 steps. So it won't hit the operating budget next year. However, we plan to fund those out of bond premiums, out of existing bond premiums for probably the next 2 years. We'll see how things develop, but probably over the next 2 years that we would fund those out of bond premiums, and then ultimately in I'd say the next 2 to 4 years, those would be moved into the operating budget. It's approximately $800,000 to $1 million worth of items. And then finally, pension costs. Our pension ADEC is going up. We did what's called an experience study, which is done every 4 or 5 years, where the actuaries go back and they look at how we actually performed demographically, economically, financially in all different ways, how the valuations and the assumptions in the valuations performed versus what actually happened. And so when the actuaries looked at that experience study, kind of let them know that we need to increase our pension ADEC. And there's pros and cons to that. It's obviously an impact on the budget, not great, especially in this year. The good thing is we're putting more into it, and I think we're going to have a more accurate read on how much should be going in, so we won't have as much volatility from one year to the next going forward. So ultimately, it's a good thing. It's just a little pain up front. Again, the revaluation, this is the phase in of the revaluation is a short-term issue and burden on the taxpayers that we're dealing with. And we were strategically proposing to use a number of different items to help offset that and help to provide some relief. I talked about using bond premiums for the movement of some of the capital items. And in addition, there will be some bond premium use to reduce our debt service amount in the budget. It will be stepped down over time. So we're going to use a certain amount. We won't have to, make up that money in the following year's budget right away. It'll be stepped down over a period of 3 or 4 years. So there's not the initial shock. As you all know, we have budgeted some fund balance to be used this year. We're once again assuming a drawdown of fund balance in next year's budget to the amount of $8 million. And so I'll go into a little more detail on that as well later, just to show you some history of what's happened with the budgeted drawdowns of fund balance and what actually happened. The internal service fund, we have balance there. And so we're going to utilize some of that balance to pay for some of the premiums that we face, and whether it's in LAP or in our workers' comp or healthcare. Some other measures that we're taking, we're proposing to do a 1% salary lapse. So what this is that within each of the divisions of the city, we propose that their budgets be reduced by 1% of all the salary line items in their budgets. In most cases, the departments should be able to absorb that within their salary line items without much trouble. And just by managing the turnover of staff and refilling of staff. In other cases, they may not have that as much ability to do that, and we're suggesting that they find 1% in another part of their budget. Obviously, mentioned the revaluation phase-in. That's another way that we're trying to offset this. We're proposing an increase in the personal property mill rate, going from 28 to 32. And this is part of a larger theme, which is trying to find some other revenue sources wherever we can to be able to offset the increases that taxpayers are going to see in their real estate property tax bills. We're going to once again do a tax sale in the summer of 2026. As we saw during this last tax sale, much of the revenue comes before that. If we schedule it for a certain day, a lot of the revenue comes in before that day because people don't want their homes to get to that point where they're being auctioned. And so they pay in the months preceding that. And so we will see a good amount of that revenue within the FY26 year. And then I talked about the 1% salary lapse. That was one of the things we did and some other measures that we took to limit increases in the city and BOE budgets. So here are some highlights of this budget. We are fully funding the our long-term liabilities. In the case of the pension and OPEB, we are funding them to the 100% of what's recommended ADEC, recommended by our actuaries, and also fully funding our debt service. We're limiting the spending increase overall between the Board of Ed and the city to 3.3%. The city's increase is 2.5%, and the Board of Ed increase, we are proposing not 9.7%, but 4%. The assumed tax collection rate is fairly typical at 98.6%. We have talked, I think, to pretty much all of the different boards at one time or another about motor vehicle registration compliance program that we're putting into place. That should be starting up next week. And so this is to have a consultant come in and make sure that any of the vehicles that are basically in Norwalk permanently are registered in Norwalk. This program's been successful in other cities, in Stamford, Danbury, Waterbury, and that's another program that's going to help to bring in some additional revenue. The Rec and Parks Department is restructuring their fees. This will also generate some additional revenue. We are honoring a commitment made last year to add community resource specialists. And with the amount that would be in the fund balance, we would be at 16% of the overall budget. All right. This is the budget, the expenditures, proposed expenditures by budget division. You see the Board of Education there. So the increase that we're proposing is about $9.3 million. Again, that's a 4% increase. The amount for the city is about just over $5 million increase at 2.5%. And the overall is 3.3% increase. As you all know, and you've listened to these presentations before and listened to departments in the past, and every department is different. They all have different needs. They all have different challenges. And so, when you look at the percentage increases in each department, there aren't a lot of broad strokes that you can make about all the departments. The one thing I will say in this case is that these numbers for each of the divisions here appear to be inflated and higher than what we were looking for out of the departments. We were looking for 2 to 2.5% increases. One of the main thing that's driving those increases is the hiring freeze that was put into place this year. Because now you have in 25 a number of positions that were funded for a half a year. And then next year in this budget, they're going to have a full year's worth of funding. And so it's kind of, that dynamic is kind of skewing things within the budget. Not much new here, but I always find it eye-opening to look at this chart and just to remind us graphically how dependent the city is on property tax revenue. It's pretty astounding, and illustrates one of the issues of finding other places to get revenue. We're trying our best and trying to find other places, but there aren't not a lot of other sources to go into. We suspect that the investment income has probably topped out. And that's gonna, that will start tailing off in the years to come. I'm trying to make some efforts in that, in that source as well by talking to the firm that does our investments. And most of the cash that we invest right now it's very short term, like in a 6-month to 12-month range. We have the ability to go out further. And so my plan is to start doing that, which means we would, preserve some higher yields for a longer period of time and, be able to see those gains for longer. Here's a breakdown of the pie chart of the expenditures. And the implied comparison here is the education spending versus the city. This is at face value. The education amount is close to 54%. I'm going to go into a little alternative on this in the next slide. Debt service is still under 10%. What this next slide shows is the actual, as I mentioned, what you saw on the slide before was just at face value, looking at the appropriations between the city and the Board of Education and how those break down and how they're appropriated to each. What this slide shows is that there are a number of items within the city budget that are actually education related. The biggest one, for example, is our projects, our capital projects, the school, school construction projects, HVAC projects. The city carries all the debt service for those projects. Another big one, not nearly as big, but also in the millions of dollars, is the internal service fund for workers' compensation, and also the LAP. Insurance. And so when you break it out and you factor in those costs, that spread between the Board of Education and the city is really more like 61% for Board of Education and 39% for the city. Here's the mill rate sheet, and this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. This is what the median taxpayer will experience under this budget. You see a range on the bottom there, looking at the median tax bill. The range is between 8.4% and 14.6%, depending on the given district. The overall mill rate increase is only about 1.3%. So it's, this is difficult, and that's all, a lot of that's being driven by the phasing of the reval and also the motor vehicle tax changes. And here's a breakdown of the motor vehicle tax changes. There were two changes that the state made that are really impacting the city. One of them was to require us to set the motor vehicle mill rate at a rate that is as low as the lowest real estate tax mill rate. What that means for us in this example is going from 32.4 down to about 22. So what that represents, what that results in, is a $10 million revenue loss, just in that change. There's also a different methodology that the state is requiring us to use for determining the value of motor vehicles. Instead of using a Blue Book value, Now it's going to be just a straight line depreciation at an amount of 5% a year. So they look at the MSRP when the car was purchased, and then it goes down by 5% per year. And so that, after crunching the numbers on that one, it looks like we'll lose about $2 million in revenue from that piece, so a total of 12 million. Again, loss to the city, but there is a little bit of relief here for the taxpayers, because it does help somewhat to offset the increase in real estate taxes. And you see the range there depending on the district and the average car. And that's for the difference is per vehicle. So that you could have, if you have multiple vehicles, then you would double that amount or triple it, whatever, depending on the number of cars that you have. All right, we talked about the fund balance. So what this chart shows is a history of the fund balance. In the past, there has been some proposed use, some proposed drawdown of the fund balance. But if you look at that middle section there, the proposals typically didn't need to occur. So between 2019, 2020, 2021, there was no, there ended up being no drawdown of those monies. And the same thing in 2024. There was a proposed drawdown of 6 million, but that didn't happen. What we're assuming here is that for the amount for 2025, which is $6 million, is that it will happen. That's to be seen, to be determined. But for our purposes, we're assuming that it's going to happen. And then, as I mentioned, the $8 million drawdown that we're assuming within the 2026 budget. At that, we would still be at 16% of the overall budget. Next slide is really just a recap for you all, to remind you what happened with reval and the phase in and the shift in property taxes. And that the residential real estate went from 66% up to 71.5%. While the commercial values went from 34% to 28.5%. And obviously the city elected to do the phase in. And so we are about to go into the second year of the phase in. Again, thank you to Tom Ellis and to Agnes and for all their work. And I'll take any questions that you guys might have. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jared.
You're welcome.
Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Madam President. A couple of questions. First, well, one's a comment and a question. Going back to slide 9 for the mill rate table. I don't know if you can add a little more commentary to that. I wouldn't want the message to be that every single household, for example, in District 1 is going to get an $850 increase and so forth. These are averages or?
In that particular case, it's a median, so that value in the middle is what that is for the on the real estate side of things. With motor vehicles, that's an average is what we use. So, with the median, there's going to be half of the homes that are above it and half that are below that amount.
Okay, thank you. And the second question I had is related to contingency. What is the thinking around bringing that down by over $1 million?
We went back.
Consistently kept it at 2.5, and now we're looking to bring it down by over $1 million.
We looked at the history, similar to fund balance. We looked at the history of how much of that has been used over the years. And we also looked a little closer at the salaries and, trying to project as best as we can what we think that is going to happen with the union negotiations, and determine that there was some savings that we could achieve there.
And just add to that real quick, Jared.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so historically, it's been 1.5, year after year. Yeah, historically, it's been 1.5 million, and every 4 years when we do a contract negotiation, it goes up. So that's where we nest the the contingency for the salary increases that we're negotiating. So assuming that we settle these things before June 30th, we can go back down to 1.5. And in this case, we decided to go to 1.3 million because historically we haven't even used the full 1.5.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Mr. Sheep.
Thank you. Can you explain the hiring freeze? I know there's a lot of questions in the community and public. They see that the city has a hiring freeze, but then they see that the city has jobs on the website. Could you just explain how that works?
Sure. There was, when the hiring freeze was put into place, there was a targeted amount of savings. And so it wasn't a hard hiring freeze where, we were hiring nobody. It was, we looked at each department and as I mentioned earlier, every department's different. They all have their challenges. And so we went through and, made some judgments about which departments could live without hiring those certain numbers of people over a half-year period of time. And so it wasn't that every position was frozen. It was that there was a target savings amount that we had in mind. And we could determine which positions would be frozen and would not be eligible for being hired.
Thank you. And just one last question. Do you know how that affects, or if that affects the DEI officer position?
Well,
I'll say that the hiring freeze last year was just until January 1st. So it's over now. So whatever applications or openings you see on the city website are reflective of that. The DEI officer is an open position. They are, as far as I know, actively recruiting for it.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? Ms. Najewski?
Thank you, Madam President. Just a couple of things. You mentioned investment income. I assume that includes our rainy day fund? I'm assuming that we get some investment income from investing that fund.
It includes fund balance revenue. That's part of it.
And you had mentioned the possibility of potentially increasing that through investing longer term. How would that work, and does that impact our ability to, draw down funds when we need them?
No, it would be done strategically. It wouldn't be all funded. We wouldn't take all of our cash and put it long term. We'd look at the liquidity, how much we need, looking at the history of what we've used from month to month, week to week, and make sure that we do have enough to obviously to pay the bills. There would be plenty of cushion there. It would just be a matter of taking some percentage of that money and moving into longer term investments.
Great. I mean, certainly these days, knock on wood, we'll see how things continue, but it does seem like 1.8, we could hopefully get something a little better than that would be great.
And I just want to add to that too,
Yeah.
Just so that nobody's concerned about where this money is going. We're not allowed to invest in stocks and anything. These are all very secure, government notes and bonds, and we can only go out as up to 5 years at a maximum. And so they're all highly rated. So there's not much risk.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
On the revenue side, I didn't see, at least that I saw in your pie chart, I didn't see a lot of money coming in from grants. What are we doing to try to increase our revenues from non-governmental sources?
So working as much as we always do. I know there are a number of, the different departments, have more opportunities to access grants. The police department, health department, community services, has the ability and has access to different grants, and a lot of those grants are recurring every year. I've just completed a draft of a grant policy and procedures document that's under review now by staff leadership. And is also going to go to out to the department heads for them to look at. And so, my hope is that that's going to help us be more efficient, be better at tracking, and also be better at chasing down grants. These are a lot of the grants that we talk about, and a lot of the grants that you read about are typically for capital projects. There's less opportunity within the operating budget for grants. And obviously the dollar amounts within the operating budget are smaller. But we are working on it.
And does this year's budget proposal include a grant coordinator position?
We have the same part-time grant coordinator.
But we've not made a request for a full-time person?
No, given this budget situation, and also I want to give the new policy some time to set in and see how that's going to work, and how because it will hopefully make the grant coordinator more efficient as well, and help to distribute the different responsibilities better. And so I want to give that some time to curate, and then we'll make a decision after that, we may find that we do need a full-time person.
Do you have an estimate of how much revenue the grant coordinator has brought in part-time in comparison to her salary?
So this is always what you attribute to the grant coordinator versus I'll say this, I believe we identified about $40 million in grants, and those would be projects, capital projects that we have out there right now.
Yeah, I will just make a statement that I think it would be a highly worthwhile return on investment to have a full-time person, and possibly more than that. $40 million is an awful lot of money for one part-time person to have assisted with, and I think we could do a lot better if we had more full-time assistants there. I think a lot of municipalities have really taken advantage of grants in a way that we have missed out on, and it would be terrific to see more investment there.
I'll get you a report, and I think you'll be pretty surprised at the amount that we've been able to bring in. And I think there are the returns quickly diminish bringing in another person. In other words, if I hire somebody full-time, you're not going to see a jump of 2/3 in our grant funding, I don't think, because there are the high visibility, low hanging fruit that we can get and are able to get with the staffing that we have now. So I just want to let you know that you're not gonna see a proportionate amount. We bring in another person, we're unlikely that we're gonna see another $40 million or $60 million come in.
Sure, I'd take another 20 million now. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I would really appreciate seeing that analysis, because I think it's something that council has wondered about for a couple of
Sure.
years. I also wondered about the efficiency study that was commissioned a couple of years ago. I know that we have asked to have an update on implementation of that study, and I would love to know how that has played out in your budget analysis. Have there been cost savings that we have been able to identify that have increased our ability to work better, in addition to freezing salaries or holding positions open? Have there been ways that we've been able to do our job better through those kind of efficiencies.
So we, as we're going through the budget process, we're obviously looking for the department heads to find savings wherever they can. I don't know that they're specifically identifying, at least not in their communications with us, to say that, you know, we can cut $10,000 here, and that's because of this this measure that we did, which was in the efficiency study. I know that we are currently in an effort to identify and update what's been done to date. And I suspect that we'll probably update the spreadsheet that's out there. Then we'll probably have an update to that within, I'm gonna say, to be conservative, within the next month.
Perfect. That would be really wonderful.
Sure.
Because I think one of the things that I really worry a lot about in looking at this is, again, this question, not just of, you know, what the overall total number is, but are we getting a return on investment? Are there places where, you know, spending a little bit more gets us something that is of, you know, a higher quality service, a service that brings us more revenue in the long run, a service that reduces demand for services in the long run. And so I think, you know, everything we can do to really understand the consequences of the cuts or sorry, let's be clear, not cuts, of the freezes, of the holds, of the lack of increases, where that really is helping us in the long run generate less long-term costs. And so I appreciate the really looking into efficiency and not just the overall numbers. I think that would be very
Definitely,
helpful.
agreed. Yep.
Thank you. And then I think my only other question, you know, affordable housing is something that I think we're increasingly aware of. And I think we're increasingly wrestling with, you know, questions around the need for affordable housing in the city and investments there. Are there any new programs or proposals in this budget that are related to affordable housing?
No,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Mr. Lopez, Councilmember Lopez is zoomed in and he has his hand raised. If we could, unmute him, please.
Hi, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
we can.
perfect. Thank you, Jared. Jared, quick question. With respect to the anticipated increase in the contribution to the pensions, what are some of the largest contributing variables within the actuarial assumptions? Is it mostly just demographic, or is it a combination of demographic and economic? But I just want to kind of get a general sense of what's being seen.
It's a great question. And if we had another 2 days, I could tell you exactly. We have the actuary coming into the pension board tomorrow to present that study. And so, you know, we'll have a better sense of what those are. I'm happy to send that study around too, once it's finalized.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick other question, just out of curiosity. When it comes to the bond market, let's say the current administration decides to put forward policy to alter, completely eliminate the tax exemption status of municipal bonds. What, just in the general sense, what would be the impact to the city in terms of its ability to raise revenues to fund vital capital projects?
Another good question. So municipalities, governments rely heavily on that tax exemption, and it's a marketing, it's a sales tool to the bond purchasers. And so you know, I guess in general terms, it would level the playing field in not a good way for the city. So yeah, that there would definitely be an impact there if that were to happen.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Frey.
Thank you very much. It was a very good presentation. As far as the grand list goes, has there been any movement in that? Or have there been any abatements that have let up or that have been able to be added to that? We see any movement at all between where we were last year vis-a-vis either residential versus commercial?
So the amount of natural, what we refer to as natural growth in the grand list was about $253 million between last year and this year. And so that would account for developments, any kinds of expansions, and would include abatements that are tailing off. Unfortunately, because of the freeze, because of the phase in, we have to take that $253 million and phase it in over the remaining time that's left in the phase in. So we're able to take 1/3 of that. We have 3 years left. We're able to take 1/3 of that amount. So about $84 million that we're factoring into the grand list.
Another question on revenues. I know that historically, most departments that do collect any revenues have been relatively conservative. And then we see some pretty large increases, like building permits, for example. We see they come in at the end of the year. Have we loosened up the estimates on that very much, or been maybe not loosened up, but become less conservative at all?
Look at Tom, I know that we did look at because we had been seeing in the building department some large increase, and I believe that we did factor in some amount of increase there, and it's another one I can get you more details on it. And they were seeing large increases even the first 2 or 3 months of this fiscal year, fairly extraordinary. The thing that you always have to be wary of, though, is getting drawn into that. Just because you're seeing those increases this year or in those first few months doesn't mean, we're projecting for the next fiscal year. Doesn't mean those same increases will be there in the following year.
Mhm.
So it's, you really gotta look at development by development, see, and try to make the best estimate you can based on what you know is out there or could be out there. And and Tom just reminded me the conveyance tax we bumped up, and they kind of run in parallel.
One last question, and I agree with my colleague Nora that there's got to be a look at our study, harder look at functionalities that are similar, where there may be synergies, whether it be in IT or whether it be in purchasing or whether it be in human resources or any of those, where we have the same department over in the Board of Education we have within the city. I think there's got to be a serious look at some of those where we can achieve some synergy there, so that we don't have to have duplicate operations. And I understand the different businesses, but anybody that's ever worked in a corporation or a conglomerate knows that there's all different businesses, but you have one IT department, you have one HR department, you have one purchasing department, and so forth. And I think it's worth having a look at. I'm not saying that you're gonna find millions of dollars there, but I think it's worthwhile to take a look at.
This is a small example, but we were just at a department meeting today. And I know that we are making some small steps. In our new contract for copiers, we're mirroring and going with the same vendor that the Board of Ed is using. And so that can be helpful in terms of maintenance contracts and purchases.
Similar to licenses, these software licenses that we see out there. It seems like we see the same contract, the same licenses with the Board of Ed and also with the city. And the question is, well, why don't we put them all together? And it's that maybe this timing is off a little bit. The 3-year contract for the Board of Ed is up this year, but the one for the city isn't until next year. But and things like that can looked at.
Understood.
Good.
Yep.
We've had this conversation.
We have had this conversation. Yes, maybe more than once even. I appreciate it though. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question regarding the drawdown on the fund balance of $8 million, and that's going to take us down to 16%. And if my memory serves me, we really don't want to get below 15% on the fund balance in terms of the rating agencies and the health of the city. So my question is, do you feel confident that that's after that drawdown, we're going to have enough wiggle room for the potential loss of grants that could be coming our way?
There's two questions there about, I guess, maybe my opinion on what grants we might lose. And, you know, we're tracking that and following, everything that anyone is saying about, what could be happening at the federal level and at the state level, how that might roll down. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have anything firm. We don't have a concrete, proposal or proposals to act upon. The governor did come out with his budget proposal. I've always taken the approach of not, if the governor has, whoever the governor is, whatever the changes are in those typical municipal grants, pilot and ECS, town aid road, to not incorporate those changes into a budget, because from my long experience working in the state, there can be significant changes to those proposals over the next few months by the legislature. What's the other part of your question? Sorry.
It's really a hypothetical question because we don't know. what
Right. So
could be
you were
happening.
asking about the drawdown, was I think,
No, I mean,
where
we
you
don't-
were going?
We don't like to get below, so am I correct about 15% maybe?
Our policy says that we should keep it between 10 and 15%. Yeah. And we have talked to our municipal financial advisor. He advises us not, at least next year, not to go much lower than we are. If you look at that slide, it's kind of interesting because you can go back in time. And there was a year in there, if I can get to this. So you'll see that in 2020, it was down at 16.1%. As far as I know, the city's rating was still a AAA at that time. So there, we do have some evidence that going down to 16% is not gonna jeopardize our rating. Anything beyond that, we'll have to, we will once again go back to our advisor and one of the things that is important is that this is, as I mentioned early on, that this is part of an effort to delay and to help with the burden on taxpayers. And it's really a structured way of using the fund balance in order to help offset those tax increases. And knowing that, I think, we've been advised that that's helpful in our argument for reducing it, but we obviously don't want to push it too far.
Thank you. We need to wrap up. We might have time for one more question if anyone has. Just like to acknowledge that Mayor Will has joined us. Okay, well, I know that you will be at the Finance Committee to present on Thursday night, and then there will be a vote on the operating budget cap to set the cap on Thursday night. So I will now call for a motion to adjourn. Ms. Shanahan, thank you. All in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You didn't have that. Is that why it's looking?
James, are we on now?
We're live.
Okay. Good evening. The time is 7:32. I would like to call to order the February 11th meeting of the Norwalk Council. If you'll please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mr. Burnett,
Present.
Mr. Goldstein, Mr. Lopez,
Present.
Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Present.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Ayers,
Is it?
Mr. Seed,
Present.
Mr. Wiggins,
Here.
Ms. Young, Ms. Edie,
Here.
Ms. Winterstrand,
Here.
Ms. Dunn, Mr. Sutton,
Present.
Mr. Frere,
Here.
Ms. Shanahan,
Here.
13, we have a quorum.
Forum. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 28th, 2025. Do I have a motion? Ms. Shanahan, are there any corrections, deletions, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as submitted? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next is the approval of the minutes of the special meeting of January 30th, 2025. Do I have a motion? Ms. Najolski Eichner, are there any changes, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as submitted? Opposed? And abstentions? Ms. Shanahan abstains. Thank you. Next, we have public participation. I don't see anybody here in the audience, I don't believe, that wants to address the council. James, is there anybody watching virtually?
There's not at the moment, Mr. Mayor.
He says there's none, or there's nobody who was wishing to talk.
Okay. Last one more time. Anybody wishing to address the council, please signify by raising your hand. Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Next, under resignations and appointments, we have two to the Board of Health. That's Janet Karpiak and Joan McNeil. Can I have them move together? Mr. Burnett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the reappointments of Dr. Janet Karpak and Dr. Joan McNeil. Both have been valuable contributors to the Norwalk Board of Health. Combined, they have over 60 years of experience and have worked in various capacities throughout the tri-state area. Janet specializes in pediatrics and has professional experience working at Norwalk Hospital and Norwalk Community Health Center. And Joan specializes in nursing and has professional experience working at Yale New Haven Hospital and NYU Langone Medical Center. She's also an assistant professor of nursing at Norwalk Community College. We're very fortunate to have these medical professionals with this caliber of experience and background willing to serve and advance the mission of the Norwalk Health Department. So as an alum of the Board of Health, I fully support their reappointments.
Thank you, Mr. Burnett. Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the appointments? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the reappointment, reappointment of Eric Rains to the Parking Authority. Do I have a motion? Ms. Smith?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I would like to move the reappointment of Eric Rains. Mr. Rains is a longtime resident of Norwalk. He's been here from 2008, and he has his own company, Eric Rains Landscaping Architecture, which he founded in 2011 after many years of working in the industry. He holds a bachelor's degree from Mississippi State University and many years of experience as a landscape architect. He has been here in Norwalk, as I said, since 2008. He is currently serving as chair of the Norwalk Parking Authority and has been serving on the authority since 2018. And so I wholeheartedly move his reappointment and support support it. And thank him for his continued service.
Further comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. And now we have the reappointment of Ms. Dana Laird on the Historical Commission. Do I have a motion? Mr. Freyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the reappointment of Dana Laird, who is currently serving as chairman of the Norwalk Historical Commission, and I might add, has been either a member or a volunteer on the Historical Commission since 2001. So she's a native of Norwalk. She graduated from Brian McMahon High School and studied art at Skidmore College, and she's a very accomplished photographer and works with many other historical societies throughout the city and acts as a volunteer in many of the museums and associations. So I think she'll continue to be a very good addition to the Historical Commission.
Any further comment or discussion? Ms. Dunn.
I'd like to just give a shout out to Dana. I think she's a great model of what it means to be a Norwalker. She loves the city. I want to add that she loves trains. She's always got a positive attitude, and she's someone I really look forward to seeing all the time. So I'm grateful that I can call her a friend too. So I'm glad that she's still involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the appointment, reappointment? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, I just have a couple of remarks. As many of you probably have heard, we brought on board Ms. Jody Trendler as our new Director of Sustainability and Resilience. She got over 20 years of experience within the municipal and nonprofit sector, specializing in climate action planning and zero waste work. As you probably also read, her salary is being funded by the American Rescue Plan funds, and we felt that it was a very important position. She worked as a sustainability consultant for the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Environmental Committee in Chicago. Prior to that, she chaired the Naperville Environment and Sustainability Task Force in Naperville, Illinois. In her new position, she'll lead the implementation of the city's sustainability and resilience plan and advise and assist the city and the Common Council on sustainability best practices and policy development. She'll also be doing training programs for staff so that we can stay on top of sustainability and resilience efforts. And this falls right in place with my goal to make the city of Norwalk the greenest city in the state of Connecticut. So I welcome her aboard and give her a nice round of applause. And I know you know that this past week, we had a little bit of a white stuff coming down on our city. It's one of the few snowstorms that we've had this year, but we've had a couple of smaller ones. We have our chief of operations here, Vanessa, and I texted her over the weekend telling her that we're very, very impressed with the work of the Department of Public Works in clearing the streets. I did get many positive comments from different folks, both in person and electronically. So I want, and I told her to thank the operators of the plows and all the other people that are the supplements to helping clear the snow. We don't always get a chance to say thank you. Your work does not, however, go unnoticed, and we thank you for all you've done. Now you've set the bar pretty high, so we're going to hold you to that every time from this point on. So that's all my work. That's all my comments. I'll turn it over to Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Under reports, departments, board and commissions, corporation council, we have 2 executive session items that will be off consent. And unless anyone has an objection, I'll move that to the end. Okay, and so moving on to the consent calendar tonight will be read by Councilmember Burnett.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Consent calendar for today, February 11th, 2025. Common Council committees, 7A, Land Use and Building Management. 7A1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents related to the proposed equal land swap with property owner of 25 Pogany Street for a portion of Photo Farm property. 7A2, Brookside and Tracy Elementary School underground fuel tank removal projects. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with B&W Paving and Landscape, LLC, for the Brookside Elementary School oil tank removal project, State Project 103-0266 CV, for amount $196,000, and Tracy Elementary School oil tank removal and boiler igniter conversion project, State Project 103-0267 CV, for amount of $391,000 for a total not to exceed $587,000. Funding is available in accounts noted. B, authorize the NPS Facilities Department to issue change orders on this contract. Brookside Elementary School oil tank removal project, State Project 103-0266 CV, $19,600, and Tracy Elementary School oil tank removal and boiler igniter conversion project, State Project 103-0267 CV, $39,100 for a total not to exceed $58,700. Funding is available in account noted. Item 7A3, Tracy School Air Conditioning and Electrical Upgrades Project. Item A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Olympus Construction, a division of Cataruzza LLC, for the Tracy School Air Conditioning and Electrical Upgrades Project for a total not to exceed $526,800. Funds are available in account noted. B, authorize the NPS Facilities Department to issue change orders on this contract for a total not to exceed $52,680. Funds are available in account noted. Item 7A4, School HVAC Projects, Rowayton Elementary. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Newfield Construction Group, LLC, as the construction manager CM for the Groton School HVAC Improvement Project. Terms for the agreement shall be as follows: pre-construction services, $21,044, CM contingency 1.85%, CMV 2.20%, general condition amount to be determined as part of the GMP. Funds are available in the account number noted. B, authorize allowance for additional services for pre-construction services phase for a total not to exceed $2,500, account number noted. Item 7A5, school HVAC project, Narragansett Elementary School. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Newfield Construction Group, LLC, as the construction manager CM for the Narragansett School HVAC Improvement Project. Terms for the agreement shall be as follows: pre-construction services, $14,029, CM contingency 1.85%, CM fee 2.20%, general condition amount to be determined as part of the GMP. Funds are available in account number noted. B, authorize allowance for additional services for pre-construction services phase for a total not to exceed $2,500, account number noted. Item 7A6, school HVAC projects, Marvin Elementary School. Or A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Newfield Construction Group, LLC, as the construction manager CM for the Marvin School HVAC Improvement Project. Terms for the agreement shall be as follows: pre-construction services, $9,119, CM contingency 1.5%, CM fee 2.20%, general condition amount to be determined as part of the GMP. Funds are available in account number noted. B, authorize allowance for additional services for pre-construction services phase for a total not to exceed $2,500, account number noted. Item 7A7, school HVAC projects, Silvermine Elementary School. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Newfield Construction Group, LLC, as the construction manager CM for the Silvermine School HVAC Improvement Project. Terms for the agreement shall be as follows: pre-construction services, $7,015, CM contingency 1.5%, CM fee 2.20%, general condition amount to be determined as part of the GMP. Funds are available in account number noted. B, authorize allowance for additional services for pre-construction services phase for a total not to exceed $2,500, account number noted. Item 7A8, school HVAC projects, Brian McMahon High School. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Newfield Construction Group, LLC, as the construction manager CM for the Brian McMahon High School HVAC Improvement Project. Terms of the agreement shall be as follows: pre-construction services, $18,939, CM contingency 1.5%, CM fee 2.20%, general condition amount to be determined as part of the GMP. Funds are available in account number noted. B, authorize allowance for additional services for pre-construction services phase for a total not to exceed $2,500, account number noted. Item 7A9, Brookside School HVAC Improvement Project. A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with FNF Mechanical Enterprises, Inc. for the Brookside Elementary School HVAC Improvement Project 103-005 HVACN for a total amount not to exceed $2,084,000. Funds are available in account number noted. B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue change orders on this contract for a total not to exceed $208,400. Funds are available in account number noted. Item 7A10, South Norwalk School Technology Package, Total Communications. A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Total Communications State Contract number 18PSX0202 for the TE-01 LAN network switches for the South Norwalk Elementary School for a total sum of $162,831.66. Funds are available in account number noted. B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase orders for a total not to exceed $8,000. Item 7A11, South Norwalk Technology Package, Connecticut Communications. A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Connecticut Communications State Contract number 18PSX0097 for the TE-02 phone system for the South Norwalk Elementary School for a total sum of $39,433. Funds are available in account number noted. B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase orders for a total not to exceed $2,000. Item 7A12, South Norwalk Technology Package, Environmental Systems Corporation. A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Environmental Systems Corporation State Contract number 19PSX0015 for the TE-03 display signage for the South Norwalk Elementary School for a total sum of $14,173. Funds are available in account number noted. B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $1,000. Item 7A13, South Norwalk School Technology Package, Rapture Technologies. A, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Rapture Technologies for TE-04 Visitor Management System for the South Norwalk Elementary School for a total sum of $1,786.91. Funds are available in account number noted. B, authorize the purchasing agent to issue change orders on purchase order for a total not to exceed $500. Item 7A14, approve an owner construction contingency allowance with Newfield Construction Group LLCs for the new Norwalk Community Recreation Center at 98 South Main Street for a total not to exceed $423,329. Account number noted. Item 7A15. Approve an owner construction contingency allowance with Downs Construction Company LLC for the new Cranberry Park Gallagher Mansion improvement project for a total not to exceed $125,640. Funds are available from the state DECD grant. Account number noted. 7B under Public Works. 7B1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an amendment to the February 6, 2024 agreement between the City of Norwalk and AI Engineers, Inc. for project PSC 2023-1 on-call surveying and mapping services. The amendment is to extend the agreement for a period of 1 year at a sum not to exceed $200,000 with an option to extend one additional term for 1 year. Account numbers noted. Item 7B2, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute the first amendment to the April 9, 2024 agreement between the City of Norwalk and Burns Construction Company, Inc. for project PM 2024-2, permanent roadway repairs and surface restoration for an amount not to exceed $350,000. Account number noted. Item 7B4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling to execute an agreement with Safety Markings LLC for project TMP 2025-1 pavement marking symbols and legends at various locations for amount not to exceed $250,000, account number noted. And that is the way it is. For February 11th, 2025, Common Council consent calendar.
You must have drawn a short straw.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burnett. Very well read,
Yeah.
perfectly done. And you kept your voice all the way through. I'm pretty impressed. You've all heard the consent calendar, and I will call for a vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions, and that carries unanimously. And I will turn it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. If there's no objection, we'll go to item 7B3 and we'll move the executive session to the end. Yeah. So if there's no objection. So, Mr. Frere, item 7B3.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to authorize the mayor, Henry W. Rilling, to execute the Second Amendment to the July 20th, 2023 agreement between the city of Norwalk and CDM Smith, Inc. for project numbers 4240 and 4240A, DRG 2023-2, engineering design services for municipal separate storm sewer systems for a sum not to exceed $272,710, accounts noted. And I'd like to say, move that, and I'd like to say a few words about it.
You have the floor, Mr. Frere.
Thank you. CDM Smith recently completed an initial study into the feasibility of a storm water utility for the city of Norwalk, including the evaluation of existing stormwater expenditures and analysis of residential and non-residential impervious areas by type, a preliminary rate model to forecast revenues, and a matrix to evaluate the future steps to consider a stormwater utility. CDM Smith presented their findings to the Public Works Committee in November when a very thorough report was presented, and at which time the committee consensus was to move the study to the next stage to focus on public outreach and education, billing methodologies, and finally a comprehensive rate model. The public outreach, very important, this is the public outreach and education, which will include a stormwater advisory committee made up of Norwalk residents, and they'll be introduced to the stormwater management concepts, current activities management, utility rate structures and service levels and funding options, which are all necessary for a stormwater utility. So I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Valadares right now to give us some more details on what this next step in establishing a stormwater utility will encompass.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Freyer did a very good job. I don't know how much more I can add to that. What is in front of you is really to bring CDM Smith to help us bring this study to a second phase. So as part of our MS4 plan that they have been helping us with, one of the tasks was to do a preliminary study to try to implement what will be to implement a stormwater utility for the city of Norwalk. And their findings, as Mr. Freyer stated, was presented to the Public Works Committee, where they show how, based on Yukon GIS mapping of 2012, we did a calculation of what was the impervious areas and what would be the impact of those areas and how could be options for that rate structure. With the outcome out of that meeting was that the city would like to go deep in that knowledge and see what will be the options to continue exploring creating a stormwater utility. So that what is in front of you is not really to create a stormwater utility, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that because we're very far from that yet. but will be on really looking at all the concepts, creating a committee with different stakeholders that would be able to give their opinion and see how that would impact different types of properties. And based on that, and also at the same time, doing a lot of public outreach and public information, and then together try to create what will be the best rate structure to the city of Norwalk. And with that, it is a very complex process because it's not only how this rate will be taken consideration, but also if there will be some kind of deductions. It is important that at the same time, this is aligned with our MS4 and is also a regulatory process by Connecticut DEEP. So that's why the consultant will be very key to keep us on track on how we can continue exploring that. Besides that, when there is all this fully analysis of the rate and particularly going deep on every single property that we have in town, we would also be able to explore other ways of our billing system related to some other service that we have been doing there. And that will probably change the way that we bill some of those other services that we're doing now, and also implement one type of software for that. There will have to be a transition on the data, particularly because if we need to have a very precise impervious area, we need to be able to have that input in the system as well. So all that will be part of this scope of work. We are overseeing about 18 months until we can complete that. And we're gonna, of course, keeping everyone updated on that. The first task is really to create the committee and bring everybody, all the stakeholders, and have regular meetings for a certain time of through a certain period so we can continue working based on what is that. What will be all that feedback. So what I see is that probably in 18 months, like we should have a kind of a final plan that will then start through the whole process if we're really going to create a stormwater utility. So again, I just want to emphasize again, this is not any resolution to create a stormwater utility. It's just to continue exploring and have a solid model that we would be suggesting to do or not to do. We do not even know if that will be a good option for the city yet.
Any questions for Ms. Valadares? Ms. Shanahan?
Just for the public, can you explain, because you've been using some terms that people may not understand. Could you tell people what the MS4 is, what the impact is, and why this is necessary?
Sure. So we are, all the municipalities is required now to meet all the Connecticut DEEP related, what we call MS4 is municipal, wait, I always mess up all the S's, municipal separate storm sewer systems. And the goal is really to improve the water quality and also reduce all the runoffs. And as a second consequence to it is also helps with flooding throughout. It is not the main one. The main is really to improve water quality and help on the service that the city has to do to achieve that. So one example that I can use is, for instance, clean up the catch basins. It's something that we already do here under operations on every single day. We do that. Based on this plan, there is how many we need to do at a certain time. And we have already submitted the plan that you approved last year as well. We're just pending Connecticut DEEP approved, but now we need to follow our plan. And now in our plan, we have like short-term goals, mid-term goals, and long-term goals. For us to be able to meet all our goals, there will be some funding necessary to do it. So I'll go back to the example of cleaning the catch basins. To clean more catch basins that we do now, they were probably going to need a need for more equipment or more manpower. And that's where the stormwater utility maybe one way of funding all these extra costs should be aligned with the regulations that we need to comply. So that's kind of the basic idea about what would be a stormwater utility. Also, I just want to bring it up. We already have two municipalities in Connecticut that is doing it. New London is one. New Britain is starting to do as well. This is a very common model that you see a lot in the south of the country, in the Midwest, and also on the West. In the Northeast, you see a lot of them more close to Massachusetts and Vermont, but Connecticut, there are only two now. There is some push and also some grants available for municipalities that want to take that route. We are not even close to start considering what type of grants are available there because we do not even know if we're going to pursue that.
Oh, I'm sorry, just as a follow-up, I just want to say that I'm excited that we're taking a look at that, and I think this is such important work. And we really do need another funding source for keeping our water clean and meeting the MS4, the M4 requirements and things like that. So I'm excited to do this and stand ready to help write the ordinance when you're ready to go. So yeah, I'm very excited to move this forward.
Further comment, discussion, Ms. Josie?
I just also wanted to simulate, it's not so much a question, but to say that I think it's particularly appropriate to be talking about this on budget night, because what I find so appealing about the Stormwater Authority is that it is a way to ask that the costs be borne by the people who are most contributing to the issue, and also to incentivize people to reduce their rainwater runoff. And so I think it all the way around is a really nice model, and I'm grateful that this study is intended to make sure that we are able to do so accurately and fairly. So I think all the way around, it really aligns with our goals of kind of making our burdens on the city taxpayers borne as much as possible, as fairly as possible. So I'm looking forward to this study, and I'm hoping that it will show that this is something we can do well and efficiently and really get the revenues we need to deliver on these services. So thank you.
Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo the comments of Ms. Shanahan and Ms. Nadjelski-Eichner, but also if you wouldn't mind just taking a few minutes to explain, so the public hears, we heard this in the Public Works meeting and the presentation, but and you referred to it, Ms. Nadjelski-Eichner, that the more impervious surface there is, those more likely businesses, right, are going to pay a higher rate. And so I'd like to hear you talk about that a little bit for the public, because, what's that going to mean for residents versus businesses? And I remember them, talking in the Public Works presentation that, places like Home Depot and Lowe's or whatever, they pay these all over the country and they're not even going to blink at it. So just talk about that balance, if you could.
So, so the idea is that this rate would be applied based on the impervious area that you have in your property. And what would be an impervious area? There's a definition for that as of today would be like roofs, driveways, asphalt driveways, and some other areas pretty much that is not have grass or vegetation. So that will be calculated by kind of a square footage. And what we cannot say yet is how that will be the breakdown for just the residential part. It may be a flat fee for all of them that would not be as big. We're gonna come up with a median number of whatever is this average impervious area that the city of Norwalk has, and maybe establish a fee from there, and maybe with a little bit of a differential between if we're much higher on that area or much lower. We do not know that, but that was options that CJM Smith show on their presentation to the Public Works Committee. On the commercial side is, if you think about most of the properties that have very extensive parking lots, most of their lot is really just impervious area. So of course, they will be the one that will be having a higher fee related to the stormwater utility. What does that do is that takes a little bit of the imbalance of everybody paying exactly the same related to what is cover under the operating budget to address the stormwater runoffs and ended up getting divided based on your impervious area. So that's why with that, the commercial buildings are gonna be pretty much contributing more to help us with what we need to achieve based on the plan that we submitted. Also, I just wanna, everybody would be, one other thing is that every single property will be following this, will be applying this kind of rate, the same that we do with sewer. So even City Hall, schools, buildings, and also no tax exempt will also be included in this rate structure. And this is exactly for sewer. Sewer is exactly the same thing. City Hall does pay a sewer fee to the WPCA, the same as the churches, the hospital, the commercial and residential.
And then just, you also want to mention that there's a mitigation of it too. If you can, if you can reduce you can be incented to have less impervious property, right? Or if you put in rain gardens and things like that. So we're incenting good behavior by people taking action.
I just want to be cautious on saying that because we do not, this can be one of the options that the system can adopt or not. Because also we do not know if we're gonna end up doing that on the private side or on the commercial side. That is what this plan will bring to it. There are some municipalities that do that and some do not. So we're gonna come back with the pros and cons of maybe for your consideration if we should do the fee rate like that.
For the discussion. Seeing none, all in favor of the item? Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries unanimously. Now I need a motion to go into executive session. Ms. Smith, motion to go in executive session at 8:13. All in favor?
Do I need to read these?
Pardon me?
Do I need to read these?
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Yeah. Let me make the motion to read them because we have to come back to vote on one. So item 1 under Corporation Council, City of Norwalk versus 587 Connecticut Avenue LLC et al. Docket number noted. And item 2, discussion and authorization for resolution acquisition of real property. That is the one that we will have to come back, make an amendment and vote on that item.
Okay, and it's still 8:13, so the motion to go into executive session is still on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We are in executive session at 8:13 PM. Time is 9:03. We are back in public session out of executive session. During executive session, no motions were made, no votes were taken. We will now move on to item 6A2 because 6A1 was just discussion. So we'll move on to item 6A2. Ms. Smith.
Yes, Mayor, item 6A2, discussion and authorization for resolution acquisition of real property. I would like to make an amendment to move this language. The City of Norwalk is hereby authorized to purchase, acquire, and or take by exercise of eminent domain power the real property and parcel known as 493 Connecticut Avenue, Norwalk, Connecticut, the property for sanitary sewer purposes, and further that the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, or his designee, is authorized to execute and deliver any and all agreements, documents, and other instruments necessary to purchase, acquire, and or take by exercise of eminent domain powers the property.
Okay, so a motion made to add that language. Have any questions? Mr. Ferrer? Any further discussion on that?
Just for the record, reflect who made the motion.
No, she
I did.
she wanted, yes, she making a motion to add that language.
Yes.
And
No, she's making a motion to add the language.
Yeah.
There needs to be a set, so. We're gonna
No,
vote on that.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And now we will vote on the item as amended. So we're going to bring to the, who's gonna make you want to bring a motion forward to make a motion?
I will make a motion
Item 6A2.
6A2. Okay, so I'll make a motion for item 6A2, resolution acquisition of real property.
Okay, the motion has been made. Is there any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of item 6A2 as presented, as amended? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. And now we need
A motion to adjourn.
a motion to adjourn by Ms. Shanahan at 9:05. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Yes. Abstentions, we are adjourned at 9:05.